you've been interviewed by a lot of different people, and you've been on different TV shows, and I heard you were the hit of the Cannon Mess one time.
I was actually the bomb on the Cannon Mess. Steve Cannon, first time I'd ever been on the radio, he got me on and he said, "And now I want to introduce you to a really, really funny guy, Pete Hautman." And I choked. I couldn't be funny to save my life. He carried the ball. I mean, he was great. He was a great guy. I got to know him a little bit after that. We used to go for walks and stuff. But he passed away a couple of years ago, yeah. But yeah, he got me through that.
He kept me awake on a lot of late nights driving across South Dakota and Iowa when he was on the radio, and so he was probably an interesting person to have interview you. What's the worst thing about being an author?
The worst thing about being an author? Well, I think that the financial uncertainty has got to be a big part of it, because it's a very up and down thing. And it's not like there's a pension plan. There's certainly no health plan. So that's difficult. It's also difficult to kind of put yourself out there and knowing that you're going to receive, criticism, knowing that there's going to be people that are going to hate your work. And that's true of everybody. I mean, even J.K. Rowling, is the most beloved books of the last 100 years, has her share of critics. And for some reason, the critical voices tend to cut through the praise in a very disproportionate way. But that's true of anything. Anytime you're I don't know how a politician can do it. I mean, that's got to take a skin of steel. I could never do that.
What's the best thing about your profession?
Oh, being able to do what I want to do every day, being able to write what I want to write, being able to start the day working in my pajamas, being able to take naps at will, meeting a lot of interesting people. It's fun meeting readers. It's really fun meeting other writers, although there's a certain danger there, because, if one admires a writer tremendously, somebody that's a really great writer, and you get a chance to meet them, well, about 1 time out of 5, they're going to be a real dink. And, I've had that happen to me a couple times, and it makes it impossible for me to continue reading their work, even though I know that they write great books. But the rewards of meeting writers who are just like golden as people far outweighs the negatives, so I keep doing it.
At the end of the day, from our school here, what do you want the kids to remember?
I think I would like them to remember that that reading a book was a rewarding experience. That's my hope, is that it just gets them to get interested in or continue to be interested in reading. And I know some of them will, and I know some of them won't. But, it's one thing I decided early on. I figured out at some point that it's not enough to just write the book. You have to communicate through the book. You need to reach people. You need to make a difference to them. And so I'm far more interested when I write a book in keeping the reader reading than I am in giving the reader a particular message.
It sounds like you have a pretty good moral compass. As we've talked here today, you have a pretty good vision of where you're at and where you'd like to be, kind of where you'd like to have your readers be at the end of the story.
Well, I don't know how good my moral compass is, but I'll tell you one thing: I don't want other people to have to rely on my compass to make their decisions. My last year, a book was published I wrote called How to Steal a Car. And it's about a girl that steals cars. And she steals a lot of cars. It's not a primer, but it's not a moralistic kind of book. She steals cars throughout the book. At the end of the book, she steals another car. She never gets caught. And, some of the reviewers have like taken some umbrage that I never showed my character paying the price. And I knew that some people would read it that way. But I just really kind of wanted to, with that book, make a statement and say, I'm not here to deliver a moralistic statement. I'm here to, tell people a character's story in such a way that it allows them to make their own decisions. Nobody's going to read that book and say, oh, I guess it's okay to steal cars because you won't get caught. No way. But they do have that option.
You've got a new book coming out?
I do.
What's the name of the book and a little bit about it?
It's called Blank Confession. It's coming out in November. And it's about a boy, 16-year-old boy, walks into a police station and says he wants to confess to a murder. And it's, as you go through the book, he's telling his story to the policeman, and then we're seeing in interspersed scenes what actually happened, which is a little different than what he tells the policeman. This is a Western. It's set in a contemporary urban setting, but in structure and intent, the book is loosely based on the novel Shane by Jack Schaefer that was made into the movie Shane in 1952. I wanted to write a Western thing where a stranger comes into town and takes the side of the underdog and defeats the evil cattle baron. I always loved that story structure, and so I wanted to transpose it into a contemporary urban young adult novel.
Pete, I really appreciate you taking time to sit down with me and go through a non-professional interview. I really appreciate it, and it was a real pleasure meeting you, and best of luck.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this.
Thanks for watching this edition of Cardinal Clips and our conversation with author Pete Hautman, along with visits to our teachers Heather Riddler and Sarah Squibb. And remember, we're teaching tomorrow's leaders in our classrooms today. So Heather, on Thursday you have a special day. Tell us about that, will you?
We do. On Thursdays, we celebrate grammar. It's called Grammar Thursday. We have T-shirts, and Queen Sarah gets all dressed up, and the kids wear hats and sunglasses and just really have fun with grammar, which is hard to do.